Welcome back, everyone, to the Hearthstone Grandmasters for the Americas region. Our second match and our featured one is Monsanto versus Rase. Our match today that doesn't feature a mage. It is a Thief Rogue versus an OTK Paladin, a matchup that, quite frankly, I haven't seen yet, despite playing both these decks on ladder extensively over the past 24 hours. My name is Frody. I'm joined by TJ. If you missed our first match, Just Saying took out Purple very promptly by a score of 2-0, commanding victory. What can we expect coming up for this match here, DJ?
I'm in the same boat as you, Dan. I've played both these decks as much as I can in the last 24 hours. And I have not run into this matchup yet, but I can imagine that this deck can put on a little bit more pressure than the mage. Just consistently, you get one board removed, you play another board. This deck also does have a Spirit of the Shark.
I love it. Spirit of the Shark is one of my favorite cards in Rogue.
Yep, absolutely. That can make for some crazy turns because with Spirit of the Shark and Evil Miscreant, there's so much potential for you to have a surprising amount of burst damage from hand. What some of the biggest things to look for are like the Spell Lackey from Evil Miscreant. You get 2 Spell Lackeys. Each of those Spell Lackeys summon 2 or give you 2 options for spells. So you can have like, multiple Eviscerates. You can have more Cycle to put in your deck. High Spare and Togwile can come into play. So it's kind of crazy. But unlike the Temple Rogue that we've been seeing recently up until the nerfs to Prep and Evil Miscreant, it doesn't apply pressure that early on to the game. Okay. You don't have to worry about weapons. You don't have to worry about the insane burst of Leroy Jenkins. So you do have time to draw. So I'd still say the Paladin has a pretty decent chance, but Spirit of the Shark can make things very crazy.
All right, well, let's take a look at what these players had to say going into this best of 3.
Hi, I'm Monsanto. My division might be the easier one. We have Just Saying in it, but the rest is kind of smaller names, and I actually think I got a little bit lucky there. In my division, I have 2 of my teammates with Team Genji. I have Rase and Nalguidan, so that's kind of interesting. It's a little bit unlucky that we're going to have to face each other. It's going to be interesting to see what happens if I'm facing one of them. Yeah, what makes me special as a player, I think, is I try everything. I try every possibility in decks. I try new things. And so when there's something that went under the radar, there's a big chance that I actually found it and I can bring that home.
Oh my God, that was huge.
Being in Grandmasters means a lot to me because Hearthstone is what I like to do the most. Being able to compete another full year of Hearthstone, that was a really big thing for me. Personal goals for it. I want to win the whole thing. That's my personal goal.
My name is Lucas Guerra Romano, as known as Rase. Last year was pretty good for me. At the beginning, I won a major, I won the Copa America, and that was pretty nice because I could defend the Brazilian title. In Brazil, we have many great players too, but we don't have that many support as other countries. It will be pretty nice to try to represent them because I know a lot of Brazilians will be cheering for me, so I will push myself hard to represent them the best way as they deserve. I hope people that already cheer for me keep doing it, and if you don't know me, I'm Rase, so start to cheering for me. Yeah, I met Monsanto in the ACT Buenos Aires, and I lost to him there at the top 8. He's pretty good too, and now he's my teammate. Sadly, we are going to face each other, but it's fine, okay? I'm always looking for win, but being here together with the best players in the world, I will keep playing better and better, and I'm here to win. I will try my best for it. I don't want to lose.
All right, so you heard it from these 2 teammates on Team Genji. That's right, Rase and Nalguidan, more of the recent additions over to Team Genji, given that Genji did such a great job making a splash last year in the team standings and even started their own website because of it, and now have Rase and Nalguidan to represent them. Monsanto versus Rase, let's take a look at their deck lists. Monsanto brought a Thief Rogue, and I want to highlight that Monsanto has a secondary deck, but he barely has a tertiary deck. This deck, of course, has the Thief package of Hench Clan Burglar, the Blink Fox, but no preparation. But his secondary deck has Togwago Scheme, Life Drinkers, Harrison Jones, and Sprint. And then his tertiary deck has 2 Betrayals, and that's it.
That's it.
That's all he added to his deck, TJ. I find that's very humorous. But in terms of what to pay attention to, Spear of the Shark is going to be one of the most important cards of this deck. You notice that, this deck doesn't have Leroy Jenkins, for example. You don't need that if you have Spear of the Shark surviving a turn, and you get to make up that damage with all the cards that you were mentioning before we got into this.
Yeah, it's a weird matchup, and you can tell that Monsanto, similar to Purple, was not prepared for this Paladin matchup. If you look at a lot of the cards in his deck, they're just quite dead against what Paladin can do.
Right.
This is the secondary deck, but in his primary deck, he has 2 copies of Sap. Or he has a Walk the Plank.
Right.
Togwaggle Scheme, which, outside of you cycling through your deck faster than the Paladin, which, good luck, it's not going to come into play.
Yeah.
So there's going to be so many dead cards. So the cards that I'm looking at, which are key cards for Monsanto, ignore the ones on the right side of the screen except for Evil Miscreant. It's Spear of the Shark, Evil Miscreant, Evil Cable Rat, and Shadow Step. He needs to find a way to generate pressure from those lackeys, and sometimes that's an immense amount of damage from hand. Sometimes that's ways to generate big boards with minions. Sometimes you can stick an early Edwin Van Cleef and win the game because of it. But he's going to have to find creative ways to win because his deck's just not completely designed to take on this Paladin deck from Rase.
All right, quickly examining the Paladin deck from Rase. Very similar to Saiyan's Decklist, but he has a True Silver Champion and Acolyte of Pain. That's a nod to the fact that I think he anticipates Rogue not being very popular. Even if Rogue was popular, not utilizing their weapon nearly as much as they used to. So the Bloodstone Core Stay are not that important. Instead, fish out an Acolyte of Pain as the Crystology replacement to it and have more card draw that way. I've been experimenting with it. It's definitely greedier, but you often want to hold on to the Pyromancers for bigger board swings. So the Acolyte's not nearly as effective as, say, it is in Warrior or in Priest. However, I do like that Rase is leaning more into what his deck does better as opposed to hedging, and sometimes having that awkward draw that Saiyan had 1 or 2 times where it's well, I have all these defensive tools but no card draw, so I just expend it early on.
Right. Yeah, it's I think his list is a bit better designed to handle it. But I'm trying to rack my brain for weird win conditions for Monsanto.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I think his primary win condition is still going to be around Spear of the Shark and things that put pressure along those lines.
But,
for example, Togwago Scheme here, completely useless.
Yeah, it's just not good. And Spirit of the Shark as a win condition is also just kind of pretty ambiguous, right? Because there's so many ways you can utilize it. You can make a bigger Edwin Van Cleef. You can have more damage from, say, SI7 agent. But there's also weird things you can do with Blink Fox and Hench Clan Burglar. What if you discover a Dr. Boom scheme from Hench Clan Burglar?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Or Timeout.
I was just thinking Timeout, or just straight up.
Yeah, or Lay on Hands, or the High Priest of the Call, combined with healing. There's crazy things that can happen from it that can disrupt the game plan from Rase. So just things to keep your eye on that could kind of change the course of the game.
Yeah, I think it still orients largely around
Job's done.
Spear of the Shark.
Absolutely.
Just double your chances. Obviously, the Shark itself won't save you. And I know that firsthand because I have coined out Shark into a Hench Clan Burger and then died. So it's not like the Shark itself will just automatically win the game. It's a foundational piece that really helps accelerate your game plan. Think of it similar to just these big, massive legendary support cards in the past, like Fandral Staghelm or Grand Bronze Spear. It's you just need to kill those really fast, because if you don't, it gets out of control very quickly.
Yeah.
Now, over on Race's end, he has Prismatic Lens, and Flash of Light. This could be a matchup where Rase feels like he might need to be conservative with his healing, but at the same time, you have to draw cards in order to win the game as Paladin. So this might look like a silly use of Flash of Light, oh, he didn't even gain health whatsoever, but that's not what his deck focuses on, which is not the Control Warrior, drain your opponent out of resources, if you can even do that to this deck.
Yeah.
It's draw cards and kill.
And honestly, just mana expenditure is a big thing for this Paladin deck. And Monsanto's deck is not built in a way that's going to pressure early. So he knows that it's going to be multiple turns before he's able to get maximum value from the Flash of Light. So you might as well just get the 2 mana out of the way. Use it now. Try and cycle through your deck to find more card draw. Hit those Crystallogies, which are honestly the most important card in this early game.
Yeah, so Monsanto has Novice Engineers in this deck. I think that these Novices were a one-to-one replacement to Preparation, and I'm still a little bit on the fence. I like the experimentation of it because Novice Engineer works really well to synergize with things like, you know, if you're playing Togwaggle Scheme, for example, and you don't really have sprints, you don't have Myra's and Stable Element, so you need like some semblance of keeping your economy going. That being said, it does feel like this deck still wants to capitalize on big tempo swings, right? You have Van Cleef, like you mentioned, and you have like all these other like expensive cards you could pick up with Blink Fox and Hedge Clan Burglar that I often still find myself missing a discount with Preparation, even though it's been nerfed.
Yeah.
So I'm still a little bit on the fence, but I want to see if Monsanto can show me exactly why Novice is really important. And I guess it already kind of has, because if he had Preparation instead of Novice, his hand would be really awkward already.
Yeah, since he draw both early on.
Right, because if he had like 0 mana preps, his hand doesn't do anything.
Yeah, and if you look at just the way the deck's constructed nowadays anyway, there's not that many things you can even prep, right? Like prep, Walk the Plank, not great. Vendetta is just activated already by having a card from an opposing class. So,
right.
It's like prep sap, prep eviscerate. Those are the only 2 things. And I don't think this deck is designed 100% around tempo. It's designed to kind of go a little bit longer than previous iterations of Rogue and kind of go for those big power turns with Spirit of the Shark. So I can see why the prep's been cut.
The logic checks out.
It does.
And the tempo still exists in this deck, right? Because the Underbelly Fence comes out as a 2 mana 3/4 for the big swing. You still have Backstab and, like you said, all this other stuff. So it's more of a faster variant of a mid-range deck. You could still call it a tempo rogue deck. I just like the fact that it has all these zany possibilities because of Hedge Clan Burglar and Spear of the Shark and even the Togwaggle Scheme. So I like giving it its own archetype of calling it a Thief Rogue as opposed to, say, the traditional tempo rogue.
I hope you like my invention.
Novice Engineer Shadow Step gives him an opportunity to potentially draw the Evil Miscreant and combo it. Although I guess he still had that opportunity with the coin.
I hope you like my invention.
Another Underbelly Fence. I think at this point he's going to be at 10 cards next turn. He can still play his Evil Cable Rat and not overdraw. I kind of wonder, you know, what's Monsanto's pressure game plan if he's not playing these Underbelly Fences for tempo. You saw like that in contrast with Purple. Purple was playing against the OTK Paladin and was like, I have to play like Ooze instead of like the Antonidas, right? I have to like set up some, like the Sorcerer's Apprentice in order to try to pressure my opponent. And Monsanto clearly understands that. Like, yes, this is only 1 damage more, but that might be the difference maker here.
Yeah, and sure, this rogue deck doesn't rely on like Waggle Pick, Leroy Jenkins, and crazy amounts of damage from hand to win the game. But it's still, early pressure does matter. Because there's no weird win condition like this Paladin deck where you can deal 25 damage in a single turn with just that combo that you cycle through. You still have to kill them, and you know, even though you can find creative ways and you can do weird things, early chip damage does add up over time.
That Prismatic Lens getting the Holy Wrath, Hammer of Wrath, excuse me, and allowing Rase to play for 5. Monsanto should know that that means Ziliax is in the hand. Not that it's like a huge difference maker, it's just a small little note there. That is one of the cooler things about cards like Prismatic Lens, and even if you go back to earlier cards like Ivory Knight from Paladin, that you get information from whatever benefit that they were able to get. Off of like the draw or discover. Evil Miscreant getting a couple of okay cards. The Witchy Lackey onto the Miscreant is normally very good, although you're going up against a deck that just has what feels like infinite board clears.
Yeah. I think Witchy Lackey in this particular matchup is probably the worst. Kobold Lackey is decent because combined with Spear of the Shark, it's like 4 damage burst from hand for 1 mana.
Easy.
The Spell Lackey is by far the best, because that just, especially in combination with the Shark, getting to discover 2 spells is amazing. Because that can add up to way more damage than Kobold Lackey can do. Special shout out to the Goblin Lackey, just because that's also burst. With Spear of the Shark, that's 2 damage that you can add on.
Yes.
But that's kind of down there with Witchy Lackey is the 2 that you really just don't want to see.
My favorite clutch moments are utilizing Goblin Lackey to go for the buffs with the Shark. Shark trades in, and then do some other like evolve shenanigans with the Witchy Lackey.
Yep.
To regain some of that board tempo. Rase picks up Crystology, so he is set pretty much. He can clear the board this turn if he so desires, and then also go for a card draw. The thing is, without Leroy, without too much burst, there's not that much to be afraid of if you're Rase from the hand. It's all about what's on the board is what you're really scared of. There is the Eviscerate and the Lackey possibilities. But outside of that, Rase shouldn't be too afraid. So dealing with the board means that you still should be fairly safe.
Yeah, and it may not seem like the most valuable Wild Pyromancer quality, but
Ooh.
look at what board you're dealing with. All right, Spirit of the Shark, time to go in. Can get the double Lackey from the Evil Cable Rat.
Yeah, Evil Cable Rat all of a sudden becomes Evil Miscreant. Goblin Lackey and Witchy Lackey.
I swear that Spell Lackey is it's not an equal chance for all these Lackeys, Dan. Spell Lackey just
Could
like
be
5% chance to get a Spell Lackey.
It could be just me, because yesterday I was getting nothing but ethereal lackeys, but I lost anyways because I was like so greedy.
Enjoy it while it lasts. Just picking like 8 sprints.
Well, like I was playing with Admiral next to me, and like we just kept picking more value options because we were going up against a slow deck. We were going against like Warrior, and we just lost on tempo because we just got so greedy that they played Dr. Boom Magia, so we just got.
I think it's almost always correct to go for aggressive options, but
This is such a nice draw here from Rase. Before he didn't have an opportunity to deal with Spear of the Shark, and now he does. However, he will have to part ways with his second Pyromancer in some capacity here.
well, you could do it with Blood Mage Thalnos. That's
Oh yeah, Blood Mage Thalnos. No, that makes perfect sense there.
Yeah,
That's really nice too.
yeah, it's because it also puts additional card draw on the board, so he's sitting pretty. Doesn't help his breakpoints. He still needs to find a way to get that additional damage in, but Rogue outside of Ziliax doesn't have a way to heal, and Rase does have a True Silver Champion in deck, plus double Hammer Breath. So he's got ways to get Monsanto down below, or to 25 health or below. But this is, Monsanto just can't get anything going. And look at the far left of his hand. Vendetta, Walk the Plank, Sap, Backstab. None of those cards are useful in this matchup. Sure, you can backstab a Blood Mage Thalnos, but that just kind of helps Rase along with his game plan. High Priest of God.
That's the card that could give Monsanto some way to make Rase's life complicated.
It's the start of something.
Right.
He needs ways to heal, and in his primary deck, he doesn't have Life Drinkers. If he had Life Drinkers, that could be a creative way to get back above, and that's one of the cards that I gave a shout out to from Blink Fox. You know, let's say he picks up another Blink Fox and gets Lay on Hands. All of a sudden, that makes Race's job much more difficult to try and get him down to that 25 health.
Yeah, or even just evolve minions into lifesteal with Witchy Lackey. I mean, he does have Ziliax in the deck, so he'll have to wait to get to that point. Maybe Monsanto doesn't even want to take extra damage, right? Like maybe he doesn't dagger down the Thanos because he doesn't want to go to 25.
Yeah.
If he doesn't see any if he doesn't see any way to heal the rest of the game, he's effectively at the Holy Rat range.
Yeah.
That's why I like this backstab here.
I honestly think you also want to hold on to the High Priestess of the Call as long as possible. The reason being is because sometimes Rase will use the first Holy Wrath aggressively, right? He'll use it to get an additional cycle.
Right.
If you show the High Priestess of the Call later, like after your opponent plays a Holy Wrath, it kind of conceals that information. Now, the downside of that plan is that you're just not getting a 3-4 on the board in a match where you're probably going to have to win, and you're also just kind of unlikely to get more healing. Outside of Ziliax, like you need the second Blink Fox to hit a healing card in Paladin, and probably even more than that. So I'm not surprised that he went with it, but there is an argument to holding on to the High Priestess of the Call and try and played as a surprise later on in the game.
I hate surprises, TJ. I like giving them to my opponent, but I hate it myself. You know, it's so the call definitely would have that big psychological damage toward the late stage of the game if Monsanto had the luxury of waiting for such.
Yes.
Rase picks up double novice engineer.
Move quickly. Unity, precision,
Wow, this is definitely a strong reaction to what's on the board here.
Yeah.
Rase does not want to give Monsanto any ability to leverage tempo. Actually, no, he actually does give him the ability to leverage double now, because now Vendetta and Walk the Plank actually have application for it.
Yeah.
Huh.
Maybe he's just trying to empty cards out of his hand because he knows that
yeah.
he needs to draw next turn.
Yeah.
Because if you hero powers there, he goes to next turn at 9 mana, so it's kind of weird to just cycle Novice Engineers, especially if you pick up expensive draw stuff.
That does make sense.
Double time and double pay.
Evil Miscreant looking for big influential lackeys, Cobalt Lackey and the Faceless Lackey to summon a 2-cost minion. Nothing amazing here.
I'm telling you, Dan. Ethereal Lackey doesn't exist.
It does, just I guess not for you.
That's 6 lackeys this game, and none of them are Ethereal Lackeys. It's my conspiracy theory of the day.
I'll believe it with more each passing turn, it feels like.
Well, he's got one more evil Cable Rat in the deck, and that's his Lackey generation, so.
Right, which is also important to note if he ends up finding a way to utilize High Spear and Togwaggle. Togwaggle, of course, having a treasure for 3 mana, making Preparation Nerve hurt a little bit more, but another use case for that card.
I hope you like my invention.
Second equality. One of the defining things about Race's deck is that double equality compared to, say, the Humilities that are in Just Saying's deck.
Yep.
Crystology should pick up the Acolyte of Pain, and I think that is the final remaining 1 attack minion in the deck.
Yep. Has played Crystal Smith Kangor, Blood Mage Thalnos. Both Novice Engineers, obviously, they're on the board. Still no Shirvala, though, so Crystology picking up Acolyte of Pain. If he were to just play the Acolyte of Pain,
quickly.
He could overdraw.
he could overdraw. Just going to dump a Shrink Ray. He's got second Shrink Ray plus second equality, so.
It's interesting. So, like, in the previous position, Race was a little bit more liberal with his healing to get cards out of his hand. I kind of was thinking a flash of light, but I think it's kind of what you're describing. Like, his hand's just a little bit too inefficient and clunky. It's a lot of mana cost. Plus, he has to get Shirvala down to 0 anyways. So playing the Shrink Ray is an investment into the future. Oh, hey, Youthful Brewmaster. That gives him the opportunity to Shadow Step and do other cool shenanigans if he finds a way to heal. That's a card definitely worth holding on to.
Yeah, if he picks up Shirvala,
oh boy,
how many spells has he played?
I was forgetting about the double stab possibilities. He's at 10 cards, TJ.
1 out of 9.
I wasn't counting that.
He reacted well. What?
Is Sinto Lol making an appearance, a cameo appearance in the
I'm
Americas?
99% sure he did. Yep, there it goes. Monsanto got the news a little bit before us, I think, because we saw him smile.
How did he do that?
Dan, I said sometimes you have to find creative ways to win, and Monsanto, one, probably didn't even have a strong read that
Oh
Shirvala
my
wasn't in the
gosh.
hand, because it's impossible to know. So he's just like, you know what? I'm out of stuff. I have these saps which aren't doing anything. I have to find some way to win this game.
Sinto, are you watching? Probably not. He's playing an Open Cup right now as we speak.
And now Rase is doomed for every time he plays in Grandmasters for the rest of eternity, we're going to play that clip of him discarding Shirvala.
Yeah. I was not thinking about the double sap play in that scenario. I was so focused on, like, the next draw sequence from Rase, like how he spends his hand. And you were talking about the beginning of the day, TJ, about how hand management is a real thing. when it comes to this deck.
victory
Rase concedes, and Monsanto is going to take an upset Game 1 victory.
Wow. Now, it's kind of brutal to call that a fluke, but Dan, that's a big old fluke.
I mean, it was a 1 in 10 or 1 in 9.
A 1 in 9 from our perspective, but for Monsanto, it's a shot in the dark because he's got a bunch of cards in the far left of his hand. Any one of those could be Shivala.
Right.
So Monsanto, that's a last-ditch effort to try and find a way to win, and he nailed it.
It's because look at his hand too. It's just like a bunch of reactive cards: Sap, Backstab, Walk to Playing, Vendetta that's not even activated.
Yep.
He had a couple of lackeys that give him Rush when his opponent's not playing any minions.
Yep.
Monsanto said, "This is my highest chance for victory, which is above 0, but probably less than 10%."
Yep.
And he lands it, and that's why you don't give up, even if the matchup feels awful. And at the same time, you got to feel for Rase because he was like trying to manage his hand, and the double sap with that one draw was his like last thing he needed to fade. And that's going to be Game 1 in the books. What's going to happen for Game number 2? Will either player pivot in their deck strategies? We'll find out when we come back to the Hearthstone Grandmasters.
But lackeys alone aren't enough for world domination. They bring the manpower, but you also need a goal, a direction. Being evil isn't just sitting around. You've got to have big plans. Each villain in Rise of Shadows has an evil scheme. Schemes are spells with incredible potential, but you can't just rush into an evil scheme. You've got to take your time and think it through. That's why schemes start out weak, but their effects improve every turn that they remain in your hand. Take Rafam's scheme. It might not look like much at first, but wait it out and it becomes a lot more powerful. So plan your moves carefully. Rafam's scheme is effectively limited by how many available board spaces you have, but other schemes have no cap. During the development of Rise of Shadows, we experimented with many different mechanics before finally landing on what we know today as lackeys and schemes. Lackeys used to be called Evil Zugs. Before that, they were named Marks of Evil and were a currency that were generated by some cards and spent by other cards. We found that the requirement to draw both pieces in a proper ratio made them unreliable and not as fun. So we turned the currency into the payoff itself, similar to spare parts from Goblins vs. Gnomes. Schemes used to be spells with random additional effects or with additional discovered effects. The concept was to make an adapt-like mechanic for spells, but it proved challenging to find interesting bonus effects that worked on any spell and also make interesting spells that worked with those bonus effects. As you've probably already guessed, the villains we'll meet in Rise of Shadows will be back in new different forms. But I have one more exciting set of cards to share with you today. Callback Cards. Each evil villain has brought a card with them that harkens back to the set they were originally from. Each of these reuses a previous mechanic. We've already revealed Madame Lazul's callback card, Forbidden Words, which is a throwback to the forbidden cards from Whispers of the Old Gods. Now, let's see what Dr. Boom is bringing to the Rise of Shadows. A new Omega card, Omega Devastator. Like the other Omega cards from the Boomsday Project, it has reasonable stats on its own, but it does something incredible in the late game. It's a great throwback for Dr. Boom. I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to the League of Evil. Talking about them does make me wonder what exactly their grand plans are.
Our evil plan comes together!
Welcome back, everybody. Monsanto just stole Game 1 away from Rase, but that is why it's best of 3. We'll see how this deck continues to adapt to their opponents. We were thinking about the High Priestess, the Call, to potentially make a big disruption plan, but it turns out it was just the normal way you burn one-card win condition decks, which is destroy that one card and make it unplayable. And that Shivala is going to be very much ingrained, burned, if you will, in the back of Race's mind.
That's right. And I can imagine Monsanto's going to switch to a secondary deck, which cuts the saps. But maybe after that game 1, you kind of think to yourself, maybe
Well,
I could do that again.
It's respect for Rase. I don't think Rase is going to fall for a strategy like that now that he's going to be extra careful. Because again, you know, he was resilient to 1 sap, and he was still technically pretty resilient to 2 saps because there was a strong possibility that he would be safe from that burn anyways. However, losing that was, of course, game losing.
Yes.
So he wasn't infallible, and that's logic and reasoning. The secondary deck from Monsanto, 2 Life Drinkers, an extra Togwaggle Scheme, a Sprint, and a Harrison Jones. Much better than the Walk the Plank, which is pretty useless against Silverhand Recruits and Blood Mage Thanos that Rase will tend to play. Game number 2 here. It's not going to be any different from Rase. I don't think he's changed anything.
No, looking at his deck list, his tertiary deck cuts like a Quality Hammer Wrath and Shrink Ray to make way for Doomsayer, Sound the Bells, Archmage, Vargoth, and Baron Geddon. That seems like a way to handle token-style boards. So maybe Murloc Shaman or Token Druid. And then, of course, his secondary deck has the Undertaker, Mechanical Whelp, Egg, and Immortal Prelate package, which is to handle Warriors. So not really a choice, but to stick on his primary deck. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with the deck. It's doing exactly what it needs to do. Even last game, it did exactly what it needed to do. It removed the board, it stayed alive, it drew cards, just drew 1 too many cards, and burned 1 too many cards. We'll have to see. I like Monsanto's hand a lot better in this game. No dead cards. She's got good early activation with Evil Miscreant and Evil Cable Rat, as well as Blink Fox. Maybe we'll see some Ethereal Lackeys this game, even, Dan.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here,
Yeah, no,
TJ.
that's
Ethereal
a bold
Lackey.
call.
Don't worry, I'm not going to gaslight you. You're not crazy, TJ. Ethereal Lackey does indeed exist.
Prove it. Show someone who doesn't play Hearthstone this match and tell them, I promise there's a 4th Lackey. Or even a 5th Lackey in this case.
Yeah, I mean, there is a 4th Lackey. You are correct.
We saw Faceless Lackey 1.
Yeah, we saw Faceless Lackey,
Lackey.
Goblin Lackey, Kobold Lackey, and Witchy Lackey.
Yeah.
The last one that's missing.
Ethereal.
The Green Power Ranger, if you will.
Yeah.
It's the Ethereal Lackey.
I was waiting for a Rase to have Cheval in his opening hand and keep.
Yeah, like that's the kind of knee-jerk reaction that you have to be able to
That
discipline
I
yourself
all the time.
That's the knee-jerk reaction that TJ has all the time, but you gotta discipline yourself to play within the guidelines. Because yes, again, that was game losing, but that's not something that happens every game or on average. We're close to it. 2 more Lackeys. Kobold and Witchy Lackey. Stop giggling about yourself, TJ.
It doesn't exist.
So
it's a lower % chance, I promise.
Here's the thing. Rase still doesn't know what kind of rogue deck that Monsanto is playing.
Yep. He's played all the same cards.
Still could be the sap deck lists.
Yep. Until he sees a Life Drinker. That's pretty much the card that could change things.
But also in Monsanto's camp, when will he be playing cards like Life Drinker? Seems like it's going to be a card that's more impactful later in the game.
Yep.
Like, if you go for a Spirit of the Shark, Life Drinker, Shadow Step Life Drinker, that's just a 24 health swing. You deal 12 and you gain 12.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is, of course, gaining the life back, because Rase will likely have a timeout set up to make sure that he doesn't take damage and potentially lose before the 25 comes down. That's the dynamic that ultimately Monsanto will be trying to delicately balance as we go later stages of this game. Ooh! That's a Vex Crow, summons a random 2-mana minion for every spell you play.
Is spicy.
It's caliente.
Ooh, you got the Spanish this week.
Choose soon.
Another Miscreant. I was thinking about some ways for him to play a spell here. Witchy Lackey and the Faceless Lackey.
starting to get awkward.
Huh. So I was anticipating him maybe going for another Witchy-Lackey, but this is coming up in turn 5, so he knows that there's a strong possibility of Rase doing some kind of shenanigans to the board, because Shrink Ray is a possibility. So even if he did evolve the, let's say he did evolve the Evil Miscreant, if it became the ideal scenario, which is like, 4 mana 7/7 or something.
Yeah.
It would just go down to a 1/1.
Yeah, but this is awkward for Rase, because if he Shrink Rays, then there's a possibility for essentially free reload from Monsanto with Vexcro. Now, it's only 2 minions, and they're only 2 drops. But he pushes 5, summons 2 more 2 drops. You kind of have to react, because you can't afford to take 10-ish damage each turn beyond that. So I'm curious what how Rase is going to react to this. And hand management is a thing. Like Prismatic Lens, not playable.
Right.
Flash of Light, what do you play after that? A timeout? Like, there's all these things that have to go through your head when playing this deck. The main part is just managing your own game plan, not even worrying about your opponents.
Right. Yeah, I think the Shrink Ray is because Rase has to get it out, and I'm starting to really see the big differences in how Saiyans deck list works compared to Rase. Saiyans has a lot more fluidity to it because he has more 1-mana cards. He has more 1-mana, 2-mana cards compared to Rase, who has True Silver Champion, which is a 4-mana weapon, Acolyte of Pain, 2 Equalities, and extra Hammer of Wrath.
Yep.
Those just are more mana crystals that he needs. Saiyan has 2 Humilities, a Blood Corsair, a Loot Hoarder. Things are very lean and mean, which helps him get things out of the hand much more efficiently.
And I'm going to make a call here, Dan. I don't like Acolyte of Pain in this deck.
The more I'm seeing it, the less I like it.
I was playing around a lot with it. I was playing Race's deck list specifically, and I cut it very fast for a Loot Hoarder. Even though you don't pick it up from Crystology and you have 1 less Crystology hit, I just still feel like, because you're spending a card to draw a card, it's a 1-to-run replacement outside of Acolyte of Pain, which you're not always at 8 cards with this hand, with this deck, it feels.
Right.
And so playing Acolyte of Pain is always a risk unless you have everything that you need. And honestly, there's a lot of cards in this list that are very core. Like you can maybe burn a Novice Engineer, and that's pretty useless in the late game in consideration, but Hammer Wrath may be needed to get your opponent to 25. Shrink Ray, Equality Activators, Consecration, all those are very useful. So the more I played with it yesterday, I cut it after 3 games. Obviously,
Yeah,
Race has
and
tested more, but...
Yeah, and it could be one of those things that it's important to note, these players did not have that much time to test. The patch dropped on Tuesday, and they had to submit on Wednesday.
Pretty much Wednesday. It's Thursday at 4 a.m.
Yeah, Thursday morning.
Yeah.
But for the Americas players, it might as well just be a very late Wednesday.
For Race, it's a little bit later for him, because being in Brazil...
7 a.m. or so.
Yeah, I think he said it was 8 a.m. Submission time for him, but still... You're pulling an overnighter in order to get that extra 8 hours of prep in. That doesn't seem good for your mental health, honestly.
So many options.
Yeah, we pushed them to the limit here for Grandmasters. So that being said, we have players who's come onto the show and during the interview say yeah, I just had to slide a 30th card in there, and I was just trying to be creative, but then after testing realized it was a lot longer.
Yep.
That happens when you have such a limited time. But that's also what makes it exciting, right?
Yeah.
That's what people enjoyed about the World Championship, because there's not that much time to test, and there's a lot of new strategies coming out.
Yeah.
Same thing potentially in this camp. Monsanto with the underbelly fence, trying to fight for the best amount of tempo that he can obtain. With 10 damage coming in, this is no longer something that Rase can take very casually. This is a lot of damage. Monsanto didn't even play the SI7 agent. Okay.
Yeah, I think he's just holding on to damage. He's going to try and set up Spirit of the Shark and then just do nuts things. Spirit of the Shark, if it lives for a turn, he then goes Life Trigger, which is 6, SI7 Agent, which is 4, and Kobold Lackey, which is 14. That's just what's in his hand now. Sprint can help him pick up more. He's got another Evil Cable Rat still on the list. He's got another Life Trigger. So that total can get up there. He's got 2 Eviscerates. So, I've been killed from even just last night, I was killed from 21 on turn 9 because I left a Spirit of the Shark on board. Playing this very deck against a similar one that Monsanto's playing. So it's possible. It's definitely possible. And you never expect it. You're I'm at 21. I got a couple minions on board. What can he do? I'm not going to time out here.
I wonder.
Turns out, a lot of stuff they can do.
Yeah, it's true. And Rase in response might have to just utilize that second Shrink Ray in this position with the Pyromancer. It's very mana efficient. He still has Equality Consecration, so he can utilize that on 8 if the board gets really big. Monsanto with this Togwaggle scheme, by the way. I wonder if he's just going to shuffle. Oh, okay. So the Shark starts to get some really big combinations here. For 8 mana this turn, he has 4 damage to the SI, 4 damage with the Kobold Lackey. That's 8 to put your opponent down to 10. If your opponent can't clear the Shark, then you have 6 with the Life Drinker. Plus...
14, I counted last turn.
Okay.
Plus more if he sprints this turn and then waits a turn for Spirit of the Shark.
Okay. So do you think you should wait?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm torn, Dan.
What if you Shark and you shuffle just a crap ton of Sharks in your deck?
I don't think that's good. Because this Togwaggle scheme is, there's like 5 Sharks, right? Because then you're just less likely to draw cards that the Shark's good with.
Yeah.
All right, he's going with kind of a middle ground.
All right, now you can still go for it.
Yeah. And it's order of play, right, with Redemption, so Spirit of the Shark would resurrect.
Yes. I think, assuming it all gets cleared at the same time.
Yeah.
Second Pyro, was that the second Pyromancer you used, TJ?
No.
Oh my goodness. That Consecration draw number 2.
That plays around Redemption on the Spirit of the Shark, oddly enough. I don't know if he's going to pull the trigger on double Consecration, because then, like, his Equality activators are limited, but I don't know. Like, what's the secret that punishes you the most here? Redemption. Oh, wait, no. Never Surrender.
Yes, Never Surrender to give plus health.
Wait. Never Surrender would hit first, and then Equality would still go off, right?
Gotta admit, I haven't.
I've never seen that interaction, but I'm pretty sure that the secret hits first.
I haven't seen like Consecration work with that interaction.
I think secret resolves, and then the spell takes effect. Because let's say you like Flame Strike a board, and your spell resolves.
Oh
first.
man. And the Redemption Secret, based off what the play order, should favor Spirit of the Shark if you look at the match history.
Yep.
Oh boy.
Yep.
So that's 10, 11.
11. He's got a sprint. Oh no.
So close.
Or do you just put him to 2?
What if you Togwaggle scheme and then sprint, huh? Like you just get Kobold Lackey and then you sprint, or you Togwaggle scheme?
No, you can go Life Trigger Kobold Lackey this turn and then scheme Lackeys. Right?
Well, I was saying you Lackey and then scheme the Lackeys and sprint to keep drawing the Lackeys.
Yeah, but if you go Life Trigger scheme this turn, you put your opponent down to 2, and then next turn you sprint to reload. They're forced to deal with the board and Hail. They're forced to do both things at once.
That's fair. Because there's board presence.
Yeah. He still has a second Spirit of the Shark in the deck, so there's that too.
Man, all right. So he doesn't actually have enough mana to play everything on the following turn. So he might just do the damage now. Like you can Kobold or Eviscerate, both deal 4. Scheme something. Scheme something. I don't mind. Shark or the Lackey. Personally, I think the Shark is funnier, but the Lackey is just more damage.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
See,
so this is a lethal setup.
He's shuffling 5 Lackeys. Imagine he got 5 more Lackeys. But of course, he wouldn't have Spirit of the Shark. Necessarily guaranteed. Rase has not a lot left to work with. In fact, now with Lackeys being shuffled in with Togwaggle scheme, Rase might feel like he's in jeopardy of dying from every point onwards, which is makes timeout one of these really delicate things to balance. Like, okay, do I have to timeout here versus just if he has it, he has it.
Yeah.
And that's sort of something that I've been that's kind of where Saiyan's choice to use timeout a lot earlier in the game just makes more sense to me as the more I watch this deck being played.
Absolutely, yeah. I will agree with you with that. And, you know, from Monsanto's perspective, you know, if his board gets removed, do you even play minions for the rest of the game? Do you just kind of keep him at a low life total and wait so he can't heal? Ooh. And then go for the lethal push with the life drinkers once you know that he's dead?
Yeah, that's a good question.
This is kind of a delicate balance, and Rase now is he can Wild Pyromancer Flashlight, go back up to 12.
Yep, I think he should definitely consider that.
Yep. Monsanto has 10 damage from hand, so this does keep him alive. Life Drinker, Eviscerate, Kobold Lackey, Dagger Up is 11? Wait, 7, 8, 9, 10. Any Spirit of the Shark? Spirit of the Shark, Life Drinker, Lackey, that's the same amount of damage as Eviscerate, that's still 10. Spirit of the Shark, Evil Cable Rat into Kobold Lackey is lethal, because then you double Kobold Lackey for 8.
Yep. This is a 1 in 5 here to win.
Oh, got it.
Wow. That's a 2-0 from Monsanto.
Wow. That's exactly 12 damage. A lot of damage from hand.
Wow.
I mean, we alluded to it, but a creative way to win the first game for Monsanto, in the second game, just straight up locking him down.
Wow. Rogue is back on the menu.
Whoa.
People thought that Rogue was toast. I saw so many comments saying Rogue is a dead class. Of course, I saw a lot of people defending Rogue, but let me tell you something. Valeera ain't going nowhere. She's still got plenty of tools in her kit, and Rogue is still quite the fearsome class to be reckoned with.
Yeah, he just kind of stole that series a little bit.
Yeah, squeaked by.
Squeaked by,
But at the same time, it wasn't really like Rase was any closer to victory. He drew like Choose Silver Champion. I mean, he had a timeout.
He was a long ways away.
He was still like 4 or 5 turns, and we all saw that Monsanto had just more gas. He had another Spirit of the Shark with 2 life drinkers in case it set up that that timeout scenario.
5 more lackeys in his deck to keep the pressure up.
He was in a good spot regardless. I think game number 1 was like a huge swing factor for the series, but after watching that Rogue play, you know, I was already anticipating Rogue to be one of the better performing decks this weekend. I think Strife Crow and Monsanto make excellent meta reads. And I think this might just be another vote in the camp of, yes, the nerfs were very big for Rogue, but one thing that I feel like nerfs have been doing for the past year was not make cards unplayable. They just scale them back in power level. Because we still use Innervate. We still use, you know, the Quest Rogue stuff. So a lot of these nerfs, they're still very good. And Monsanto did exactly just that and show you guys why Rogue is a viable class. He's joined with us on the line for a couple of words on his victory. Monsanto, are you there?
Yeah.
All right, so just talk to us about the inspiration to bring Rogue. Clearly, it was very effective. So just discuss a little bit about your line of thinking there.
Yeah, well, I spent most of my prep time trying Mage and Warrior, and I just couldn't find something that would win. Like, I couldn't build a Warrior that would beat Warriors or build a Mage that would beat Mages. So I felt like I was probably just gonna be 50-50 in a mirror match most of the time. So I decided to go for a Rogue. I saw someone went 11-0 in an Open Cup with that Rogue list, and I thought that was pretty safe to bring. I think it was Deads. I don't remember.
Nice, yeah. I think those Open Cups, there's always a few people who surprise a lot of the competitive community with like the results. I think the most successful class from the Open Cup I heard was Hunter, which is another class that I thought was making some waves. But specifically with your deck list, you know, you kind of had some really interesting nuance. Because like if I look at your deck list versus Striveco's deck list, it seems like you guys took different ideologies. You said that you copied this deck list from that person. Was there any other like people helping you out or giving you ideas on how to tool this Rogue, or would you change it anyway?
I changed like 2 or 3 cards in one of the deck lists, but mainly I didn't have enough time to test it, so I just trusted whoever went 11-0 in an Open Cup for the most part. Did you like game 1?
We weren't going to bring it up, man. We weren't going to bring it up.
I want to ask you if you liked game 1.
he was just itching to tell us, like, I know this. You guys asked me a question, but did you like game 1?
Yeah, well, I feel really bad about that. Like from my perspective, it was I had a 1 in 30 to win the game, and well, I won the game, so
Yeah. No,
yeah,
it's
that's something.
Well, I mean, we were talking about
I
like.
stole the secret. Sorry?
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, Monsanto.
Yeah, I definitely stole game 1. Game 2 and 3, I think my deck was way better against his deck, and I stood a better chance. And I felt like I was slightly favored in games 2 and 3, and I was basically giving up game 1. But I got lucky.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, I was going to say, in my practice yesterday, I don't think I beat many rogues. Just because it feels like they have to use removal on like the smallest of board states, and you build up so much damage from hand.
Yeah.
So
Or they
I kind
have
of agree
like
with you
a
there.
shark on the board. And you're like,
Shark him! I go.
I have to kill this
Do I
thing.
wild pyramid or shrink ray a shark?
It's like this thing's so scary. And then like Rase left it up, and then he took big damage. It was like all these like different delicate things. So I think Rogue was an excellent meta read. I think game 1 was super entertaining. Thank you for that, Monsanto. And then yeah, you're at 3-0. I mean, you in your interview you're saying that you want to beat everybody. You're doing exactly that. Did you expect to get off to a start like this?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm more optimistic about Specialist than most people, and I feel like there's a lot to improve on. And a lot of people seem to think that that's not the case, so I think I'm taking some advantage of that.
Yeah, let them keep thinking that while you keep racking the W's. Like, yeah, you like their tweets and retweet them. It's like, yeah, Specialist, he can't get an edge. And meanwhile, Monsanto has his own like key to get his own edge, which, I mean, we'll see. Time will tell. Currently 3-0, undefeated. Congratulations, Monsanto. And we'll see you later this weekend.
Yeah.
All right. The more I hear from this guy, the more I like him. You know, he's definitely got a very nice, dry sense of humor, which is always great to hear. And then also, you know, you love to hear when players kind of not necessarily call them out, but also just confidently say, like, I know I can get an edge. I know a lot of other people are complaining about Specialist, but I find myself finding more rooms to improve, which is always the mindset that you want. In Hearthstone, it's really about just a constant, gradual improvement rate. And if you're not improving, you're stagnating significantly.
Yeah, Monsanto's using his soapbox to call out everybody. Today he's calling out the people saying they can't get an edge in Specialist. Last week he was calling out Purple for not bringing Test Rogue. So you keep doing you, Monsanto.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Some of the people that I didn't expect to be my favorite ones to watch are quickly taking those spots. But we're just getting started with day number 1. Coming up next, we have Shaman's first appearance here in the Hearthstone Grandmaster. Now Gadon bringing the Murloc Shaman going up against ETC, who brings that mage. What's going to happen? We'll find out when we come back.